in the past, there's almost been a fear of God. And that helped keep your ideals as a family network as well quite strong, because you were afraid of. And it was a good thing.
What is it about men finding faith in their later years?
Through my struggles, I got closer to my religion as well, because understanding that my religion brings and says certain things that will help me and kind of guide me.
Reading the Bible, Moses had an encounter at the burning bush. You had such an encounter like that and you still wasn't sold. So imagine what it takes to get people sold in society today.
I think it's spiritual. I think it's praying for your family, covering your family, being present. So many men think that I put food on the table, but you're not even there for your kids. That's not being the man.
Please define toxic masculinity.
We live in a world now where chivalry is punished.
So many young men are suicidal and desperate.
I guess there's no toxic feminism.
There's one group of people that says, yes, your life does suck. And that's these toxic masculine people. What are you gonna do about it?
Yes, people, my name's David Whiteley. Welcome to The Space. And today we're gonna be talking about faith.
This is an interesting one for me. I really want to have this conversation because I feel like this is something that, most things you feel like you figured them out. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you get that. As a man, I feel like I figured it out. But this one, I'm not sure. I don't know if you know this about me, but I was going to be a pastor and I went to Bible college. I did the whole thing, did all the training. I got kicked out in my last year because I had sex. But that's another conversation for another panel. We'll talk about it another time. Talk about that one later. But I feel like I grew up in church and I learned loads of things about faith and what it means to be a man and a man of God and all of this kind of stuff. But then I stepped away from faith and a lot of it has changed for me. So I'm interested for you guys, are you people of faith first of all? And if you are, and even if you're not, maybe how has that influenced the way that you see what masculinity is or how you're supposed to show up in the world as a man? Do you know what I mean?
I relate to that part of stepping away from it, coming back to it, because that's where I'm currently at. I was raised in a Christian home.
Right.
But I wasn't I never grew into the religion in the sense of what I was being taught.
Yeah.
I just had the religion placed upon me,
right.
You're a Christian.
It wasn't yours.
Yes.
It wasn't your decision.
But so I kind of strayed away from it because I wasn't really taught properly.
Yeah.
But obviously now, in the past 5 years, in the whole social media era we're in, there's so much information and you can see more. I found the right person or to really learn from.
Okay.
And I think there's a scripture in the Bible that says faith comes from hearing.
Yeah.
And I believe that. Because the more I started hearing, the more it started combating my thoughts I had against the religion and what I thought. And the more I heard, the more I started to believe more.
Right.
I think
find my own way.
I think what you were saying, I think a lot of that maybe is you have to find it in your own way sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't come from a religious background particularly,
Oh, really?
Christian, I was, I did my Holy Communion and stuff like this, but it was never pushed upon me or, I grew up in a great household where I could discover it if I wanted to. But I think that through the last couple of years that I've been through, which has been probably the most challenging years of my life, although I'm not any particular religion attracts me necessarily, I think I'm a bit more spiritual, and I think that I've only reason that's because I found it myself, and I think maybe that's where you're at. You're finding it, you're rediscovering it.
Define. Nah, it's not even a defined thing. No, I'm noticing something. What is it about men finding faith in their later years? I don't know what. I'm trying to understand what that is.
I feel like what we go through. Obviously, everyone's all different. What they go through is different, but I feel like struggle brings out a lot of purpose in you as well. And me growing up, even though I'm a born Muslim and I've got the teachings in my house, I don't think growing up I was the most religious person. But as I went through my own struggles, my own hurdles, I was a naughty kid.
Same.
And where I'm the only son, I have 3 sisters.
Right.
I was the naughty kid. So as growing up and I got into trouble, whatever, I got into any tough situations, hurdles, I understood. And again, like you said, you stepped out. I didn't step out, but more, I had the teachings in the house, but I had to learn my own religion as well, understand what is my religion. And I feel through my struggles, I got closer to my religion as well, because understanding that my religion brings and says certain things that will help me and kind of guide me as well.
Because I feel there's a certain encounter you have to have. Yeah. And you have to be at a level of maturity to understand what that encounter was.
Yeah, you can't force it.
If you have that too young, you might not know what that.
I just feel like we're mad unserious when we're young.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like it's just like I want to do, and especially if you grow up in a household of faith, it's just like you're not letting me do what I want to do. It's very simple. Like, have you ever seen like with babies? It's just like I want to do the thing. They're so simple as creatures. Like I want to do this, so I should be able to do it. And I feel like in our younger years, that's the vibe. So now life becomes very unserious until seriousness is almost forced upon you by life. And then it's like...
I think as well, like when you're trying, if you've gone through something that you can't really explain in a way, you've got to try and find a way to deal with that. And I think that's when religion or faith, in whatever capacity it comes in, really can help you.
Yeah, interesting one, isn't it? Because when you come to
you can't explain
the limit, like I feel like that's a man thing. Do you know what I mean? Like we're supposed to know the answer. We're supposed to get it right. And when you realise you're at the point where you don't know the answer, you can't get it right, then you grasp for something. Grasp, maybe not the right word, but you reach for something else that helps to explain. Are you?
Yeah, so I'm a follower of Christ.
Okay, right.
For me, my faith is very important to me. It was interesting hearing everyone speak because I think for me, faith is experiential. It's a relationship. I struggle with the term religion because for me, religion is about rules and what you do and the actions you do to kind of get to God. But for me, my faith's all been about God coming to me and meeting me where I'm at. So I didn't grow up in a faith, home. I didn't have any sort of Christian background.
Really?
But like, I tried to take my life, trigger warning. And in that moment, like...
Man gave the trigger warning after the disclosure.
But like, and in that moment, it was like, it was only God that could take me from that place, And I prayed and I had this real encounter with God. I felt this tangible presence hold me and tell me I'm loved and tell me that I'm enough. So I had a real encounter with God. Yeah, and that's where it became tangible.
I think encounters are important.
For sure.
Now me going back and reading the Bible, most of them had an encounter.
100%.
Moses had an encounter at the burning bush.
Yeah, definitely.
Before that, it wasn't sold.
It wasn't real.
It wasn't sold on
it. It wasn't really too sold. And he still wasn't sold. Yeah. There was still a back and forth of go tell Pharaoh, and he's like, but what am I gonna still? So that means you had such an encounter like that and you still wasn't sold. So imagine what it takes to get people sold in society today.
Yeah,
those encounters don't happen.
That's
what I mean.
I don't know if any of you have clocked this. It feels like in culture at the moment, there's a movement where loads of guys, and I'm talking about guys from ends, are converting to Islam. And it seems to be a big thing that's happening.
It's a fast growing religion.
That seems opposite to this narrative of encounter. That seems more like decision. I don't know if anybody has opinions on.
I feel like, again, faith, as we're on the topic of faith, faith plays a big part in who we are because it gives us a purpose. It gives us a blueprint to follow. With due respect to all religions, each religion has its own teaching.
But it's purpose and blueprint. Is it two different things?
Blueprint is something that we follow. Purpose is you finding something in that religion. If you have something to follow, it's like, bro, if you don't have no religion, someone with no religion at all, they might have a Christian friend, they might have a Muslim, they'll go to church with you on a Sunday because they see you're at peace. They'll go Friday, because they say you're at peace. But we know in ourselves, our religion is giving us peace. That's our purpose. And true say, in life, our purpose isn't to become rich or successful because this life is very short. The purpose is in the next life. And
do you think that's what it is, though? Do you think, because I just want to attack it from a very crude point of view.
Yeah.
Is it that we are finding religion because we failed?
I think there might be a sense of...
Anything? All right, okay, all right.
Anything? In the room.
Okay, so let's say, for instance, I reach a point in my life where I walked away from religion. I tried to make money. I tried to do because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Money, right? We have the millionaire plan. Let's say you don't get the millionaire plan. I now need to find another currency that gives me value.
Yeah.
Do some people walk to religion to say, all right, cool.
Maybe.
Because then I get to shun the rich. I get to say, you man keep the money. You ain't even deep it.
I agree with
that. It's over here.
Yeah.
I think it's because fundamentally for me, I think I realized that I couldn't find value without a sense of knowing that there's something greater than myself. I think that faith gives you identity. Faith makes you realize that you're here for a reason. I think as men, we strive to know our identity. We strive to know our purpose. And I feel like we have to realize that because we think we can do it all on our own. And I think for so many times I thought I could do it on my own. And then I think God just showed me that I don't have to do it on my own. I don't have to be strong all the time.
I think that's one of the major things faith gives is identity.
Massively.
Because the world tries to give you an identity too.
Yeah.
And that identity normally crashes on us.
Mm.
It gives us,
Yeah.
it gives us the identity of like, you need to have cars to be someone, you need to have money to be someone.
so good.
And not everyone can obtain that, so it kind of crashes on us. Whereas the identity faith gives us, it's obtainable for everyone. It's saying this is how God views you.
Is it?
Yeah, value, period. No,
Yeah, no,
as
you
a
don't
human
need to
being.
really...
I like that distinction you made before about the difference between the purpose and the
Blueprint.
The blueprint,
Yeah.
because the blueprint sounds like, I think you were not shunning, but like rejecting that idea of like the religious part of faith,
Not
right? And you
necessarily
were
shunning.
saying
We don't
the
believe what we
religious
can't
part
see.
is
Yeah.
Death.
faith.
No one
Yeah.
believes death until someone so close to you dies, something like that. So
Yeah.
And then you're making the point there. What did you just say?
So he was saying it's
is it
obtainable.
too?
So he was saying it's obtainable, but
I'll
my
say the identity
identity.
you get from faith
Yeah,
is
it's obtainable.
It's it is easily obtainable.
but I just want to push back on that. Is it that it's easily obtainable, or the bar is easier to set lower? And this is what I mean by that. In the physical world, if you go out to make money, it's very easy to find out if you failed by the bank account.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? If you enter into religion, because I know that people make their relationship with God right now very personal.
but
That's
with
where
religion-
statements like "only God can judge me" will come
Yeah.
from.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if I go to
It's
religion,
exempting themselves of judgment.
If I go
Like-
to, but you're not
There are people that
exempting
say
yourself
that.
from judgment. It's just that the judger.
Has no impact.
But the identity, what I was saying is the identity that we get from our faith is what we innately are naturally.
Yeah.
So it's not something that we're being sold
Alright,
on.
okay, so
I
let's
don't
talk
know
about
We kind of lose the importance of what we are naturally when we go into the world.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
let's talk about that identity.
So are you Christian now?
I mean, technically, as I was baptized, but I don't follow religion, no. I'm not.
So would you say you're an atheist?
No. I mean, I would say for a majority of my life, yes.
Oh,
But-
really?
Yeah.
So majority of your life you believed what?
Religion, I didn't even really consider too much. I mean, growing up, there was a little bit of religion in my life, going to church, but it wasn't really part of my life, my existence.
Where you are now, do you feel like you're looking for a religion or?
Honestly, yeah, I'm open to something that comes naturally. I'm not going to force it, because I think that when you force it, you always find the wrong things,
You said
A lot
the wrong
of the
answer. All of the religions in the room are looking for. They're like, we're gonna get you now.
Everybody with their sales pitch.
Conversion time.
No, but I think my opinion anyway is if you force something a lot of the time, you find the wrong things.
Fair.
And I think this is a natural conversation, and after this, if something progresses and
with you,
then that's for me how it's meant to be.
I've had a very different experience to what all of you have described, because I was born in a Christian household and I never left. I never left.
But did they?
I mean, I left it in my behavior.
Yeah.
Never in your life
Went far.
system.
But in terms of like,
You taught the ways and everything.
there's
what
never
I
been
mean.
a point where I wasn't going to church every Sunday unless sick.
That's what
My
I liked.
entire life.
Yeah.
That's what I liked.
The teaching.
The teaching.
I did grow up.
I had the label.
I'm a pastor's son, so I did grow up in a house where there was a
That
lot.
makes sense.
Come on, bro.
That makes sense.
Bro.
Don't hit me with this thing.
I had
key information.
Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I had the labels.
but
It's like,
I know a lot of
artists.
PKs usually leave.
It's like being an artist and you've never been studio.
No, PKs usually leave because what's the difficult about being a PK, pastor's kid, is that then you find out, Christian people are mad human. Like you can be a pastor but mad, fleshly. And then when you discover that, it's just like it shatters people's. But the thing for me was, it took too much for me to not believe it for myself because the cost was too great. My time, my offering, my this, my that. I was just like, nah, I got to really rock with this if I'm going to be coming here, or else I'm going to like hate the entire experience. But I think this room, I feel like it doesn't represent the fact that there are a lot of men that are walking away from
100%.
From religion. Why do we think that is?
I think it's because they see, what they want to believe and what they want to see, I guess, when they read the Bible, when they know who God is. They don't see that in people. I think the people that represent the faith
disagree, though.
don't show it the right way.
I think it's because it don't make sense. Not sorry.
No, say your thing. Say
That's
your thing.
I do think it's like, I don't think most people are sitting down and really reading any type of scripture to figure anything out. I think if you didn't get raised in that way, you probably just don't care. There's other things to care about.
For sure.
But I think if you were raised in that way and you do care and you've walked away, I think a lot of people struggle with the fact that like, they don't believe the stories, or like, how can this bit be this and this bit be this and this says this and this says that. I think there's a lot of stuff in there that's confusing.
For sure.
That like, in my own personal experience, I had to jump through a lot of hoops to make sense of that stuff. Do you know what I mean? And I was quite happy to do it when I believed it. But then when I got to the point where I wasn't sure, I was like, I don't know if this even... And it doesn't feel right to me. But also, I'm not sure I liked who it made me become in the world. Do you know what I mean? Like which is interesting, because I think a lot of people do like that. And if I think about like being a man, I wasn't sure, like for example, views around sexuality or views around women. It didn't resonate with me in the way that it once resonated with me. Do you know what I mean? As I grew and I experienced more of the world and I got to know more people, I remember being in school and telling one of my friend's parents that they were going to hell. Like I remember having a conversation, and I was doing it from the love in my heart. Like I was like, I don't want bad things to happen to you, lot. And then I remember as an adult looking back on that and thinking, why did I like that's weird. It's a weird thing to say to someone as a 17-year-old to tell their parents that. Like, do you know what I mean? But it's just, I'm not sure it all makes sense in the way that when we're in it, we think or feel.
But isn't that what happening to a lot of people, where they go back to rediscover for themselves and find out, okay, how it's been told to me is not how it actually is.
And that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying.
Because I think like if you check most people, because I think when it comes to Christianity, when it comes to Islam, a lot of the things that we believe in today are founded upon some principle, but then now we just I'll give you an example of what I mean. The story of Noah's Ark. Who's actually read that, and I'm talking about in the world, and who's actually just knows that because it's pop culture. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's just like
so you think you know it. You think you know it.
So you hear. So I could tell you a good 4 aspects of that story. I don't think most people know. Who knows here that according to the Bible, it had not rained until that point?
You
knew that. So it had not rained until that point. Who knew that it took Noah 100 years to build the ark?
Jesus.
So do you get what I'm saying? So like, there's many.
That's dedication.
There's obviously they according to the Bible they lived longer during that time. But I'm just using that for an example. Okay, for instance, we call women angels. But according to the Bible, all angels are masculine.
Floating.
Because there were no woman until like Eve was taken out of Adam. So if you think about it, there's a lot of things that we just assume about religion and about how to approach it. Do you know what I mean?
When you say, we assume about religion, I feel like we were speaking about this earlier about, I feel like religion is, a lot of people are trying to man change a religion.
Yes.
For example, 100%. The whole Santa Claus thing, the Santa Claus stuff, that's not, you can't tell me that that's in Christian, that's Santa Claus was there. Like you said, it was found back in the days. Santa Claus, the whole big belly red, all of this stuff, it's not around.
That was done by Coca-Cola, wasn't it? Or something? Changed. It was originally, he was green, actually.
Something like that. So again, we're modernizing, we're normalizing these different cultures. With me growing up Muslim, we don't celebrate birthdays and Christmas and stuff like that. But only reason I ever would is if I have kids, because they go to a mixed school, a diverse school. Everyone else is celebrating Christmas, whatever. When you go back the next week and they ask, what did you do for Christmas?
So is there a difference here, for you, for example, is there a difference between culturally what you adopt about who you are as a man and religiously what you adopt about who you are
Personally,
as a man?
my culture is very, how should I say it, washed out. My culture is washed out. Like the rules and the regulations in culture, there's a lot of things that don't match my religion.
Okay.
Like
you mean like being
Bengali?
Asian?
Being
British,
Asian. Being Bengali, being Asian. There's a lot of things back home culturally that just doesn't match with religion.
Right. I would say the same thing about Christianity, though, like especially in the quote unquote, I hate to say this word, black church. I think there is an influx. I know, because it's the church, so it hurts me to say that, but it is a thing. So it's like, I see a lot, I'm Caribbean in it. I see a lot of Caribbean culture infused into the church,
Yeah,
which
definitely,
then
definitely.
causes it to dilute the message of the actual book.
Yeah,
I
people
agree.
reject.
I agree.
Do you get
the
what I'm
Caribbean
saying?
culture,
Yeah.
and
So
they feel like
so
they're
for
rejecting
instance, like
part
you,
of it.
when you say telling somebody you're gonna go to hell, that might be more culture than it is kingdom.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if you were to look at the life of Jesus, he didn't say that to anybody. But do you get what I'm saying? So it's just like it's interesting how you juxtaposition things.
But that-
Because
so
And I
How
want to
do
hit one
you
about
find
just
how- Yeah, go
before
for
it
it.
goes off the black church. You know, black church is that just for
black people.
Not
See,
exclusively for
this
them.
is why I
It's
hated to
created
even
by
say
them.
no. But the connotation is that, and that's
is
why.
that no? But is that what it is?
No, it's not. It's just it happens to have a lot of black people in
Okay,
it. That's all it is.
so the way we do it is like, for example, mosque. Well, mosque, any Muslim can, even if you're not Muslim, you can come inside and pray.
Oh,
It's no
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
But the way we categorize it, for example, in my area, I have a Turkish one, and we got a Nigerian one, then we got the Bengali one. That's just the preacher, the imam. Like you guys call scholar, we call it imam. That imam's Bengali, so you just see a majority of the Bengali guys or uncles will go there. You got the Nigerian one, so it's just, again, it's like...
But I don't
It's
like
not
that.
a Nigerian
I'll
mosque
explain
kind of
what I
thing.
mean. Why I say I don't like that. I am supposed to kill my culture and adopt kingdom culture. That's what's supposed to happen, right? I grew up. I find what do I find? I find that I'm Caribbean. I find that I'm this. I find that I'm that. That all starts to influence my personality.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what your faith says about who you're supposed to be as a man.
Yeah.
As a man, according to what I believe of my faith, I'm a piece of trash.
Right.
That's
who you're
what.
supposed
That's
to
how,
be.
no, that's who I'm supposed to be. But that's who I am without God.
Right. Okay.
And I feel like that discussion just doesn't get had
hate that. I hate
enough.
that.
I agree with
no,
that.
I love that.
I
love
agree
that.
with that.
It's that. I think that's probably my least favorite.
I'll tell you why. Because we think that there's a negativity to not rating yourself. So everything these days is, what do you call it now?
Self-esteem.
I'm a king, self-esteem,
Ego-driven, yeah.
ego-driven.
Yeah.
But do you feel like it is serving the first world? Because I don't. I feel like we're becoming morally decrepit. I feel like we are losing a sense of seriousness. We don't value anything. We don't consider anything to be truth. We just consider things to just be vague and wavy and whatever the case may be. But helping me to... Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say one thing about that. It just sparked something in there.
Yeah.
Is I think as well, like maybe in the past there's almost been a fear of God, and that helped keep your ideals as like a man and just as a family network as well quite like strong because you were afraid of, and it was a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think now because you've got there's a lot more science-based faith. There's a lot more a good and bad thing. I think.
It's a good thing.
Dependent on.
Give me an
Yeah, that's what I was
example,
going to say.
yeah.
What was the good side of it?
I think the good side of it. I mean,
It kept us morally in line.
yeah, I think it kept. You can when you're saying a point of view, you can
Yeah,
use examples from
because
either
I was
way.
going to say it made us sperm witches at the stake.
Yeah,
obviously.
obviously
No,
there's that.
that's
Obviously
different.
that.
That's
But-
different.
And I think, but I do think that it gave a strong family network potentially. I mean, it's hard for me to think that because I wasn't back then, obviously. But yeah.
I kind of disagree with a few of the points because I don't think that God created us thinking that we're nothing.
No, he didn't.
I feel like we have immense value, and I think that.
No, yeah, we
actually,
did.
Like, God actually says that we have so much value and so much meaning and so much purpose.
But why do we have value?
Because he created us.
Because exactly.
With
So
value.
exactly. No. So I'm saying the value is there because he put it on us.
100%.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
That's the difference between you being valuable because you're valuable and you being valuable. Have you ever loved
So
some?
you're
have you ever-
valuable in Him.
Have you ever? Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, you keep going. Go back.
Oh yeah, it's like I put it like this. This is how I view human history. God made us with the intention for us to have everything. In the garden, we had everything, right? We messed that up.
Yeah, definitely.
That's how I see it. I see it as he stood right where he was standing and we've kept walking off. So for me, our value comes in walking back.
100%.
That's just how I see it. And until we walk back, there's no value.
100%.
That's how I see it. So
No
in
complete
me,
value.
in my
What does-
state,
What does walking back look like?
back to God?
Yeah.
Yeah, what does walking back to God look like?
I think it's a
it looks like
rediscovering for
it looks like putting him back in his place, which puts you back in your place. Because when eating the fruit was us putting ourselves in his place.
So
yeah.
That makes
because
sense.
it sounds like there's general agreement in the room with this idea.
For sure.
But I don't. This is where it gets nebulous
It was
to me,
just
and I don't.
very sharp how I did it first.
I don't understand what that means for you as men? Do you know what I mean? Like, as a man, does that mean you're the head of the household? Does that mean
Right,
you're the
cool.
leader?
Going back
Does
to
that mean you've got to make money?
Yeah,
Does that mean...
I was going to say
What
then.
does-
I was going to say, like, because I think that maybe it's just how I perceive myself, because I can only talk. I can't talk on anyone else. But I think that men in society now are based on what they can offer a lot of the time. So based on what job they have, how much money they make, you know, in that respect. And I think maybe what you were saying and what I thought you were saying is that for your religion, when God created us, He was saying you're enough. That's just who you are.
Yeah.
And I think faith now helps us rediscover that the fact that we are enough, who we are. It doesn't say don't work hard. It doesn't say don't work hard.
No, because when he said that you are enough, when he says you are enough,
Because of him.
no, when I agree with
that's
you
what I'm
are
trying to say.
no, I agree with you are enough in a sense, in the sense that we didn't need to chase after those other things.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like how I think about it is a very radical. I know I'm radical. I'll put it this. This is how far I put it. If you go back to the garden, we are like babies because we are being looked after.
That's nuts. You said if we go back to the garden, we're like babies, and everyone went, yeah. Does everyone believe in a garden?
No.
But if you're Muslim, then the first 5 books of the Bible is the Torah, right? Yeah.
But you don't.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So when I say what I believe when you go back to the garden, we were like babies. Like God said, the garden is yours. Just don't eat that one thing. And they didn't get a manuscript on who God is and where God come from and stuff like that. They just end up in the garden. God is God, and it was that. Just like how a baby is with its parent. Do you understand what I'm saying?
That's what it is.
A baby don't choose. It's just like you're born, you're in this house, you do what your parents tell you. It's very simple. Some people call it the dispensation of innocence. Do you get what I'm saying? Now, the fruit represented the knowledge of good and evil. So when you ate the fruit, you get the knowledge of good and evil, and that's when Adam and Eve found out they were naked. So now, based on my view of it, how I see manhood is that everything that we're doing that makes us prop ourselves up and lift up our shoulders is going back to just more knowledge of good and evil. We think if we know more and do more and accumulate more, that brings value.
I disagree with you with like the meaning of that. I think a lot of these are stories, and they have to put them in context to explain
that's important.
So I don't think necessarily there was Adam or there was Eve. In
a literal garden.
In a literal sense. I think it's a way of explaining and how they think the best way to live your life. I think it's just like mantras and ways to guide you.
But if you ever read it, you wouldn't think that. The only reason why I say that is because how can you think that with all that genealogy? If somebody's telling me a story,
it's poetry.
No, but I'm saying if somebody's telling me a story, right, in order to bring about or illustrate a metaphor, why are you going to tell me that Jacob begat this person and that person begat, and go through all of the list of it's very detailed.
I have an answer, but I don't know if it's relevant. But I'm interested in. I'm sorry, I'm getting that.
I hope you're back to what I think you are. The roles, the manhood.
Roles,
jumping.
What I wanted to know is that idea of like the man's meant to be the provider, which I agree with. But did that come from culture or was that come from faith? Where did you get that from? It came from faith. So God established that.
I'm not sure.
No.
That's what I would like.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Where did that come from?
The provider for who?
The family, like the man.
I think biologically,
my religion, faith of assurance. You go.
Assurance.
Go ahead.
Well, my religion teaches as a man, you're a provider, you're a protector. As a woman, you have a role to play, just to be a mother. I feel like every woman's purpose is to be a mother.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like as a
every woman.
Not literally every woman. If you don't want to be a mother, you don't want to be a mother. That's a person. That's a
personal choice.
But I feel like as a woman, your purpose is to give birth and.
But isn't that a form of the reason why I reject the provision thing is because isn't that a form of provision?
Okay, so why can men not give birth?
Is it what a form?
Why can women work the other way?
I'm saying no. I'm not saying that men aren't providers. I'm saying that women are providers too.
Yeah,
that's why I
100%.
Yeah, in a different way. But nonetheless, valuable.
Important. Yeah, I think now there's a big.
I'm not saying there's less value on women. I feel like both hold their own value.
Underprovided.
Okay, on the providing side. As a man, we're taught to provide in the sense of, in my religion, it said I don't need to provide her Louboutins and extra Gucci bags every week. I need to put food on the plate. And I need to make sure there's hot water. I need to make sure there's a roof. That's for my family and kids. And that's, as a man, you should do that. If my wife wants, I don't need my wife to work.
But does culture kind of now affect that initial way that it's meant to be done?
Culture, no, but everyone's culture is going to change.
If you find a girl now, and you just provide, you just put food on the table, and that's not necessarily enough.
For you, is all of what Faith says about being a man in relation to a woman? Is it, or is there like other stuff?
Being a leader, as a man, like earlier you said, as a man we're just entitled. We should just have the answers for everything.
Right. We feel that way.
Yeah, we should feel like that. But as a man, I feel like we're go-getters. We will go find an answer. If we can't, we wouldn't really go open a book or go ask us what's the answer to this? It's like if we have a problem in our life, any business I've ever had, I don't go out to another business owner and ask him, yo, how can I alter this one in my life?
Is that from faith or is that from culture?
I think that's from faith because it's teaching me that I need to find my own way whilst I can't teach. And personally, going back...
Is it wrong to ask?
No, it's not wrong to ask. Of course, even me going back to my own religion, if I open a book in the Quran, that's me still asking. I'm asking for an answer.
Yeah,
I'm searching for an answer.
Yeah, I think it's more nuanced because I think that in terms of how it works out, in terms of who pays what in the house and who does this and who does that, I don't think it's like that. I think it's more, because even when I think of provision and when I think of those things that I agree with, though, in protection, I think it's spiritual. I think it's praying for your family, covering your family, being present. So many men think that I put food on the table, but you're not even there for your kids. That's not being the man. I think, and they will say, oh, but my faith says that, but you're not there present. I think for me, it's about being present in every aspect.
Ideals.
And it's about how you look. It's about looking after your family, serving your family. That's leadership.
I always
What
think
if
this is
certain
crazy
circumstances
because
don't allow them to be present, though?
do you know why I think this is nuts? Is because in terms of like the faith that I once had, I would have always held Jesus up as like the archetype of masculinity.
100%. I agree.
But Jesus didn't have a family. Like he didn't have a wife and kids, and he wasn't putting food over. He wasn't putting food on anyone's plate. There was no roof over anyone's head. He was a nomad. Like he was wandering teacher. So like in that aspect, if we remove women and families from the conversation, what's a man then? Because if it's Prophet Muhammad or if it's Jesus or what, then what does that say about what a man? Or for you, because you don't even necessarily believe in those guys. What is it? Like, what is the essence of it?
I think like the journey of, for me, what has been a man is changed drastically over my life. Like when I was younger, like I think a lot of men maybe is, well, I've got to be this big, tough, strong, physically strong guy, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I thought masculine person was. Because actually cultural, you see it in the movies, you see it in the movies, you see it online, you see all these big, strong guys, and you're like, that's what being a man is.
Yeah.
And what I've realized growing up in the household that I've grown up in is actually, what my dad's taught me really well is actually being a man is, what you were saying is having good ideals, looking after your family, not saying that your job's any more important than your wife's job.
No.
It's just saying this is your role, and that's...
It's lifting up others.
Yeah, it's lifting up others. And I think also like trying to be kind as well, and having that ability to be open with people.
Yeah.
So lifting up others, being kind.
I think also a man to me is someone that has done the work on themselves, as in like done the work to become a better man. Not everyone takes the time out to do that work. Some men don't even think it's important to even do that. I think someone that's integrated their feminine side and masculine side. Some men are just provide, hustle. But then on the masculine side, they can't be emotionally intelligent. They can't have a conversation. They don't know when to show affection. You know what I mean? They're just completely outbalanced. I think a man is someone that's integrated both sides. They can communicate with a woman on that side and still go into the world and respond to men on that side.
I do agree with you.
That's what I think.
I think it's a different response for men and women.
100%.
But I think they find that in different stages. I think what you were saying is...
Not response, I mean how they communicate with men and how they communicate with women.
You wouldn't offer like the same kindness and compassion to men.
Women need something completely different from us.
Do you think?
Yeah, for sure.
For sure, yeah. I agree.
For sure.
Really?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
In what sense?
Definitely, because like
Between men and women,
women some women need affection from their man at some when certain stuff happens. Whereas we might not need to give that same affection to...
Yeah, maybe it's affection, but just delivered
I
differently.
think it looks different.
Don't hug me, but let me know, yo, I'm here for you, bro.
Yeah, exactly. But with a woman...
If you want to hug, just hug.
No, but stop what I'm trying to say. It's different between each man.
Yeah, with a man, it might be
the
like...
delivery is different.
Yeah, I agree. The delivery is different. With a woman, they generally might physically need the hug and put the head
But
on
also, a
shoulder.
man might need that too. Do you know what I mean? It depends on the given circumstance.
I'm not putting my head on your
I feel
shoulder.
like- I feel like you have to be
I'm sure I put my head on someone's shoulder.
I think a man. Now I'll hug a man, but I'm not putting my head on his shoulder. I think.
But is that toxic?
Come here, bro. Come here.
Where does that come from? Where does
Me.
that come from? Yeah.
That's culture.
No, I'll tell you.
That's
That's
culture.
that's actually not culture. That's because I don't wanna.
Yeah.
So he's giving
But yeah, no, I was gonna say, well, for me, like a man is a loser, but not in the sense
What,
that.
the one that puts his head on
Guys, you're all losers.
Man's the loser, the one that puts the head on.
No. Because if I just think when I think about it, being a man and doing it right is a lot of sacrifice. For
sure. 100%.
I feel like in
That's big.
2024,
That's big.
men wanna win. And
Yeah,
that to me
yeah,
is how
no,
we're
that's
actually
true.
losing.
That's
You actually
true.
have to,
That's
as a man, you have to
saying.
lose.
I get what you're
For
saying.
instance,
That's such a
I'll
good
go to the extreme. I see man ruining their families for their own personal happiness. And I'm like, bro, just lose. Nah, big man thing, you got these kids, you got this girl, they're putting, I don't understand, like, if a girl really ain't done nothing to you, like she's treated you well, you've been with her for 20 years, you've got these kids, you've got this home, she put her entire life, where are you going?
Yeah.
Where are you
You think
going?
like-
I just feel like we've lost the ability to lose because
It's true.
and you've got the you've got the Andrew Tate.
And I feel like
you've got
culture,
the Andrew Tates of the
culture
world
plays a
telling
major part in that.
Yeah, culture.
Culture plays a major part in the idea of like losing.
And you
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
giving
yeah.
us like the wrong perception of like losing.
Yeah. Like I
You
feel
was
like
gonna say something,
no, I was
Andrew
gonna say
Tate,
the Andrew Tates of the world are just telling you to win,
Yes.
and I just feel like nah, bro. Sometimes you have to really lose.
And I feel
I've learned-
that the whole Andrew Tate thingy, I feel like that kind of weakens the part of where men can open up. You see the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
thing of
Facts.
you need to win, you need to be.
Or you can't have any emotion.
Yeah, a lot of people are
You can,
scared
just
to
not mine.
loosen up.
Just don't rest on my shoulder and you're fine.
And it's the epitome of like sacrifice and selflessness and like actually giving yourself for others. I think that's what manhood is for me. Like it's like actually like I'm putting myself last.
Yeah.
And I get something out of that. I don't know. I don't know what it is yet, but there's something about
You have
sacrifice.
confidence, more
There's
confidence.
something about there's something about alright, cool. The light's gone out in the house. It's long. Getting up and being the one that has to do it, it does feel long. But there's something about the fact that
But sacrifice
it is
is
me that has to go and.
sacrifice has always been a thing for
So it sounds like there are some things here that are like transcending, that are like based or rooted in faith, but that are also transcending and crossing over into culture.
That's what I was trying to say.
sure.
The sacrifice,
Some
especially,
ideas,
that's rooted in faith from.
But,
guys,
but faith
we
is
got
like but there's one thing.
Yeah.
Faith is like when we say rooted in faith is like what is faith? It's care. So care transcends, because the tenets or the principles of the faith is to care.
My
Yes,
guys,
okay.
this has been a beautiful conversation.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing. I feel like I've learned a lot. I've been challenged. I've been stretched.
same.
But I've learned a lot and I appreciate chatting to you guys, man.
For sure.
Definitely.